Welcome to the channel. And let's start the story. Chapter 11, The Boy Who Refused to Hurry. Lucan Mirae had always believed there were two kinds of lightning mages. Fast ones, and him. He had learned that distinction when he was 11. His first instructor had placed 6 copper targets across a training field and told the children to strike them as quickly as possible. One student fired in less than 2 seconds. Another managed 3. Lucan had raised his hand. A spark entered the target. Nothing happened. Everyone waited. 1 second. 2 inch. 3 inch. 4 inch. Then the target exploded. The instructor had stared at him. Lucan had smiled before anyone else could. Dramatic timing. Several students laughed. So Lucan laughed too. That became easier over the years. Whenever his lightning arrived late, he joked. Whenever a training partner complained that his spells were useless in a fast duel, he joked. Whenever an instructor described delayed discharge as an unfortunate gift requiring compensation, he joked. Better to laugh first. Then no one could decide the joke was him. That morning Lucan stood inside the western preparation corridor beneath Asterion grand arena. He was flipping a silver coin. Up, down, up, down. His smile looked normal. His hand did not. The coin missed his fingers. Clink. Lucan stared at the floor. Then quickly picked it up. Excellent. Caelum Rook stood against the wall nearby. You dropped it? I was testing gravity. It works. Consistently? So far. Nia Pharaoh sat on a bench drinking water after yesterday's match. You're nervous? Lucan looked offended. I'm never nervous. Celine Maris glanced up from her notes. Your heart rate is elevated. That is enthusiasm. Your right hand is trembling. Excess enthusiasm. Torrin Vale looked toward him. You've dropped that coin 3 times. Lucan slowly placed the coin inside his pocket. Everyone in this class has become extremely judgmental. Liora Asterion closed the book resting across her knees. Beren Ashcroft has won 21 official duels. Lucan stared. Princess. Yes? This was not the moment for statistics. 21 wins. 3 losses. Please stop. His average victory time is 48 seconds. Lucan turned toward Edran. Professor. Edran Vare was sleeping against the corridor wall. Or pretending. Lucan pointed accusingly. Your student requires emotional support. One eye opened. No. Lucan waited. That's it? Yes. You are a terrible mentor. I have documentation proving that. Caelum folded his arms. Beren is a bad matchup. Edran closed his eye again. Yes. Lucan, a smile weakened. He already knew. Everyone knew. Beren Ashcroft. Class 1B. Metal Affinity. Gift. Instant Trigger. Where Lucan's magic waited, Beren refused to. Prepared spell formations. Stored mana. Metal traps. Activation arrays. Anything Beren had already completed could be released without the normal transition between intent and effect. No ignition delay. No activation lag. No final mana cycle requirement. The moment he decided, the spell happened. For most mages the difference was a fraction of a second. For Beren, that fraction had become a weapon. For Lucan, waiting was the weapon. The matchup almost felt insulting. Lucan looked toward Edran. Any useful advice? No. Professor. You already know what he does. Yes. He already knows what you do. Yes. Good. Lucan frowned. That sounds bad. It is. Caelum exhaled. Could you try helping? Edran opened both eyes. That alone made the corridor quieter. He looked at Lucan. What are you planning? Lucan pulled 3 coins from his pocket. High output opening. How high? Enough mana to reduce my discharge, delay below 1 second. Celine immediately said. That will consume nearly 30% of your available mana. 27. That is still terrible. Lucan shrugged. If I can make my lightning fast enough I can keep up. Edran stared at him. Lucan stopped smiling. There. That expression. The one Edran used whenever one of them had said something particularly stupid. Lucan sighed. What? You're trying to outrun him? Yes. With a gift, specifically designed to make him faster than other people. When you say it like that, it sounds questionable. It was questionable before I said it. Lucan looked down at the coins. Edran pushed himself away from the wall. Walked closer. What did I tell you the first time we discussed your gift? Lucan knew. Of course he knew. He could still see the classroom. The coin flying through the doorway. For seconds of nothing. Then lightning. He answered quietly. My lightning isn't late. Edran waited. Lucan continued. It arrives before the enemy knows where it is. Then why are you trying to make it arrive now? Lucan frowned. Because Beren was fast. Because the arena was watching. Because everyone expected lightning to be immediate. Because some part of Lucan still believed his gift became good only when he could make the delay smaller. Edran reached into Lucan's hand. Took one coin. Held it between two fingers. You have spent years treating waiting as the distance between you and real lightning. Lucan looked at him. What if waiting is the lightning? Silence. Lucan's expression shifted. Caelum frowned. I hate when that almost makes sense. Selene was already thinking. Liora too. Nia looked toward the coin. Edran handed it back. Then started walking toward the instructor entrance. Lucan called. That was the advice? Yes. You could elaborate. No. Why? Edran did not turn. Your match begins in 3 minutes. That seems like a reason to elaborate. Edran disappeared around the corner. Lucan stared after him. Caelum placed one hand on his shoulder. He did this to all of us. Lucan sighed. I liked him better when I thought he was incompetent. Nia stood. No, you didn't. Lucan considered. That is unfortunately true. The arena bell rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. Lucan's gate opened. Light flooded the corridor. The grand arena waited. 12,000 spectators had already filled the stands. After Selene, Torin, Nia, Class 1F was no longer a curiosity. They were a problem. The massive ranking display above the arena showed. Class 1F, Individual Preliminary. Caelum Rook, loss. Selene Maris, win. Torin Vale, win. Nia Pharaoh, win. Current record, 3-1. Then the next pairing appeared. Lucan Marrow, Class 1F. Lightning Affinity. Gift, Delayed Discharge. Across from him. Beren Ashcroft, Class 1B. Metal Affinity. Gift, Instant Trigger. The audience reacted immediately. Everyone understood the joke. Fastest activation. Against delayed activation. Lucan heard scattered laughter. Not cruel. Mostly anticipation. Still. For 1 second. He was 11 again. Copper targets. 4 seconds. Instructor staring. Children laughing. Lucan smiled automatically. Then stopped. No. He did not need to do that anymore. He entered the arena. Across the field, Beren Ashcroft emerged. He was lean rather than muscular. Dark gray hair. Pale green eyes. Class 1B uniform fitted tightly enough not to interfere with movement. 6 thin metal bands circled both forearms. More rested around his waist. No sword. No staff. No obvious weapon. Lucan disliked that immediately. Beren approached the center. Lucan did the same. They stopped 3 meters apart. Beren extended one hand. Lucan Marrow. Lucan shook it. Beren Ashcroft. Beren looked toward Lucan's pockets. Coins? Mostly. How many? That feels strategically private. Fair. Lucan looked toward Beren's metal bands. Those? Mostly. How many? Beren smiled faintly. That feels strategically private. Lucan paused. I like you less already. Good. They released hands. The terrain crystal rotated overhead. The arena began changing. Stone sections lowered. Dark metal columns rose. Dozens. Then hundreds. Thin steel rods emerged from the floor at irregular intervals. Metal rings floated between them. Suspended chains connected elevated platforms. Copper plates ran through the ground in branching paths. The screen displayed. Terrain, Iron Orchard. Lucan stared. Caelum stood inside the observation box. Oh, come on. Selene leaned forward. This benefits both. Beren controls metal. Lucan conducts through it. Torin placed a hand against the railing. The entire floor is connected. Liora frowned. Which means either of them could turn the terrain against the other. Nia looked toward Edran. He had arrived. Tea in one hand. Council, notice hidden inside his coat. His expression remained lazy. But Liora had learned to notice the difference between Edran pretending not to care, and Edran actually relaxed. Today, he was not relaxed. The judge floated upward. Victory through safety barrier depletion or surrender. Gauges appeared. Lucan Mirae, 100%. Beren Ashcroft, 100%. The judge raised one hand. Begin. Lucan moved first. 3 coins. 3 sparks. Maximum output. The coins flew. Beren moved his finger. Instantly, 6 metal bands separated from his arm. No visible activation. No pause. They became blades. Lucan's first coin discharged. Too late. Beren's blades had already moved. 2 deflected the coin. 3 crossed the distance. Lucan barely turned. Metal struck his barrier. Flash. Lucan, 91%. Lucan fired lightning directly. Beren raised one metal disc. The disc became a shield instantly. Lightning struck. Grounded into the copper floor. Beren stepped left. Another band activated. No delay. A metal wire snapped around Lucan's ankle. Lucan jumped. Too slow. The wire pulled. He hit the ground. A second blade struck. Lucan, 82%. Caelum gripped the railing. He's getting destroyed. Selene watched Beren's hands. He isn't even forming new spells. Liora nodded. He prepared them beforehand. Beren had done exactly what a competent opponent should do. He knew his gift. He knew Lucan. He had filled his equipment with completed formations before entering. Instant Trigger did not create spells from nothing. It removed the final delay, which meant Beren had arrived carrying an arsenal of decisions waiting to become actions. Lucan stood. His smile returned. Very fast. Beren did not answer. Metal spear. Instant. Lucan ducked. Another. Instant. Third. Lucan threw a charged coin. Beren's spear struck it before discharge. The coin flew aside. Lightning exploded uselessly against an empty column. Lucan's eyes narrowed. 1 second. Beren was not merely faster. He understood timing. Every time Lucan charged something, Beren counted. Every time Lucan increased mana, Beren estimated the shortened delay. He had studied Lucan. Of course he had. The next attack came. Lucan forced more mana through both hands. Lightning built. Faster. Faster. If he could reduce the delay enough. Edran's voice returned inside his head. You're trying to outrun him. Lucan hesitated. That hesitation cost him. Metal disc. Barrier flash. Lucan, 69%. The crowd reacted. Beren stopped 5 meters away. You're forcing the delay down. Lucan breathed heavily. Yes. It won't work. Lucan laughed once. I was beginning to notice. Beren's eyes remained calm. My gift is not speed. Lucan looked toward him. Beren lifted one hand. A metal needle floated beside his face. My gift is decision without transition. The needle vanished. Lucan moved. Too late. Barrier flash. 61%. Beren continued. You cannot reduce your delay enough to beat something that does not have one. Lucan stared. Then smiled. Not the old smile. A real one. You prepared that sentence. Beren paused. What? It sounded practiced. For the first time. Beren looked mildly embarrassed. Lucan laughed. Then lowered his hands. Caelum stared. What is he doing? Selene frowned. Lucan stopped charging. Stopped attacking. Stopped trying to create immediate lightning. He reached into his pocket. Pulled out 1 coin. Used almost no mana. A tiny spark entered it. Beren watched. No discharge. Lucan threw the coin onto the ground. Then another. Tiny charge. Throw. Another. Another. Beren's eyes narrowed. Low mana. Long delay. 10 seconds? 20 inch? 30 inch? Impossible to know precisely. Lucan began walking. Slowly. Beren attacked. Metal blade. Lucan stepped aside. Not quickly enough. Barrier flash. 56%. Another coin. Charge. Drop. Beren frowned. He sent a metal needle toward one. The needle touched. Lightning erupted. Immediately. Beren moved back. Lucan's eyes sharpened. Not time. Condition. The coin had discharged when foreign mana touched it. Beren noticed. So you changed the trigger. Lucan shrugged. We've all had a strange month. Another coin hit the floor. Beren did not touch it. He sent an unpowered fragment of metal instead. Clink. Nothing. Beren understood. Foreign mana. Lucan nodded. Good guess. Beren's metal moved again. Lucan dodged. Poorly. 49%. Half barrier. Beren remained at 100%. The audience began murmuring. This did not look like a comeback. It looked like Lucan was losing more slowly. Caelum looked toward Edran. He needs to attack. No. He has 49%. Yes. Beren has 100. Yes. Caelum turned. Are you watching the same match? Edran drank tea. Unfortunately. Celine looked toward the coins. 7-inch now. No. 9-inch. Lucan had been dropping them everywhere. Not randomly. A pattern. She traced the positions. Then stopped. There isn't one. Liora looked toward her. What? I thought he was constructing a circuit. He isn't? No. Celine studied again. The distances are inconsistent. Torin frowned. Maybe terrain positions? No. Nia watched Lucan. Then said quietly. He stopped looking at Beren. Everyone turned toward her. She was right. Lucan was barely watching his opponent. He was watching. Spaces. Paths. Metal pillars. Openings. Future positions. Edran smiled faintly. Caelum noticed. What? Edran answered. He finally stopped waiting. Caelum stared at him. He is literally doing nothing but waiting. No. Edran looked toward the arena. He is deciding early. Beren attacked. 3 blades. Lucan moved behind a column. 1 blade curved. Another cut the escape route. The third struck his barrier. Lucan, 43%. Lucan dropped another coin. Beren stepped. Stopped. The coin was near his left path. He went right. Another coin. Beren changed again. Lucan smiled. There. The first result. He had not attacked Beren. He had made Beren choose a different place to stand. Beren realized it too. His expression changed. Lucan tossed another coin. This one carried no mana. Beren avoided it anyway. Lucan laughed. You don't know which ones are charged anymore. Beren looked across the field. 14 coins. Some charged. Some uncharged. Some timed. Some conditional. Some linked. Some probably harmless. Instant trigger gave Beren immediate activation. It did not give him immediate knowledge. Lucan threw another. Then another. The iron orchard began filling with possibilities. Beren stopped attacking. For the first time, both stood still. The audience became quiet. Lucan flipped one final coin. Caught it. Your gift is amazing. Beren said nothing. You decide. Lucan flicked the coin outward. And something happens immediately. The coin landed. But that means you're very used to deciding now. Beren's eyes narrowed. Lucan smiled. I've had years of practice deciding what should happen later. Beren moved. 5 metal bands detached. Instant. Lucan had expected it. 1 coin discharged. Not because of time. Because Beren activated metal mana nearby. Lightning jumped into the copper floor. Another coin reacted. Then another. A chain. Blue-white electricity erupted through the iron orchard. Beren leaped onto a raised platform. The current followed. He severed the platform from the floor instantly. The electricity stopped. Lucan blinked. Good. Beren landed. Metal blades formed. Lucan threw 2 coins. Beren did not touch them. He launched mundane steel fragments instead. 1 coin did nothing. The second exploded after the fragment had already passed. Beren calculated. Timed. Approximately 3 seconds. He moved. Lucan dropped low. Metal passed over his head. Lightning discharged behind Beren. Beren twisted. Shield. Barrier flash. Finally. Beren, 93%. Class 1F exploded. Caelum slammed the railing. Yes. Lucan stared at the gauge. 7%. Beren glanced at his barrier. Then at Lucan. That took you a while. Lucan smiled. I'm comfortable with that. Beren attacked again. But differently. No barrage. No instant sequence. 1 blade. Then wait. Lucan moved. Beren watched. 2nd blade. Wait. Lucan frowned. The rhythm had changed. Beren was no longer acting every time an opening appeared. He was testing. Learning. Class 1B had not reached the top rankings by being stupid. Lucan's field depended on predicting decisions. So Beren began making fewer of them. 1 step. Pause. Metal touched the floor without mana. Pause. A coin did not trigger. Another step. Lucan's smile faded. He figured it out. Celine nodded from above. He is denying Lucan information. Caen looked toward Edran. You're pleased? Yes. With Beren? Yes. Caen looked offended. He is fighting your student. That does not make learning illegal. Inside the arena, Beren tapped one column. No mana. Nothing. Then, instant activation. The entire metal column ripped from the ground. Lucan's eyes widened. Beren threw it. Lucan jumped. Massive impact. Barrier flare. Lucan, 29%. The crowd roared. Lucan rolled across the floor. A coin beside his hand discharged. Too late. Again. Old feeling. Late. Useless. Wrong. He pushed himself up. Beren stood across from him. Still 93%. Lucan. 29. Beren spoke. You were right. Lucan breathed. About? I choose immediately too often. Lucan stared. Beren lifted one hand. But you do the opposite. What? You assume waiting is always better because it belongs to you. Silence. That hit harder than the metal column. Beren continued. You started this match trying to become me. Another metal band separated. Now you're trying to make me become you. Lucan's expression changed. Beren smiled faintly. I don't think either works. Then the band vanished. Lucan barely raised his arm. Impact. Lucan, 21%. The observation box went silent. Edran's eyes sharpened. Not because Beren was wrong. Because he was right. Lucan lay on one knee. 21%. His coins surrounded the arena. His future battlefield. His clever delays. His conditions. His plans. And Beren had stopped obeying the rhythm Lucan built for him. Lucan laughed softly. Of course. That was the ranking war. Everyone watched. Everyone learned. Everyone changed. Celine had taught Cassiel. Torin had taught Galen. Nia and Ellen had taught each other. Now Beren had learned from Lucan. During the match, Lucan looked toward the instructor box. Edran sat there. No signal. No instruction. Nothing. Lucan smiled. Terrible teacher. Then he looked at Beren. Okay. Beren tilted his head. Lucan picked up one coin. No mana. No spell. Just metal. He threw it. Beren waited. Nothing happened. Lucan ran. Beren's eyes widened. Actual running. No trap. No delayed spell. No complicated condition. Lucan closed the distance. Beren triggered a blade. Lucan had expected it. He threw himself sideways. The blade missed. Lucan punched Beren. Poorly. Very poorly. Barrier flash. Beren, 89%. Nia stared. That looked familiar. Caen burst out laughing. She taught him the punch. Nia looked mildly proud. Beren stumbled. Lucan grabbed one of the metal bands around Beren's wrist. Beren instantly activated it. Lucan had expected that too. Lightning. Not from the band. From Lucan. He had charged his own sleeve button before running. Condition. Release when Beren's mana activates within arm's reach. Electricity crossed both of them. Barriers exploded. Lucan, 11%. Beren, 63%. The arena screamed. Lucan flew backward. Beren hit the ground. Both rolled. Both stood. Beren's hair was smoking. Lucan looked worse. He raised one finger. Worth it. Beren stared. Then started laughing. The first real laugh Lucan had heard from him. You're insane. Class 1F. That doesn't answer anything. It answers more than you think. Beren's expression settled. The remaining metal bands floated upward. Lucan's coins remained scattered across the arena. 11%. 63. One exchange could end Lucan. Several might end Beren. Lucan inhaled. He could feel them. Every stored charge. Every incomplete delay. Every conditional path. 32 pieces of metal. Not all active. Not all useful. But his. For years he had asked. How long until the lightning happens? Now. Wrong question. The lightning was already part of the battlefield. Waiting did not mean nothing was happening. A seed waited. A trap waited. A decision waited. A promise waited. Lucan raised both hands. Beren's eyes narrowed. The coins activated. Not discharged. Activated. Tiny blue sparks appeared across the entire iron orchard. 32 points of light. A network. Beren looked around. Circuit? Lucan smiled. No. Celine leaned forward. What is he doing? Edran answered quietly. He stopped assigning the answer. Celine stared. Inside the arena, each coin carried a condition. Different. 1 inch. Discharge, if touched by metal affinity mana. Another. Discharge, if a neighboring coin activates. Another. Discharge, if Lucan crosses a specific line. Another. Discharge, if Beren triggers 2 spells within half a second. Another. Do nothing. Another. Wait 12 seconds. Another. Release when struck. Another. Release when another discharge ends. Not one formation. Not one trap. Possibilities. Beren could not solve them all before moving. His greatest advantage, immediate execution, became dangerous because every action could satisfy something Lucan had already decided. For several seconds, neither moved. The crowd waited. Lucan smiled. Beren stared at the field, then lowered his hands. Lucan blinked. Beren sat down. Actually sat, cross-legged, at the center of the arena. Lucan, his mouth opened. What are you doing? Beren looked toward him. Waiting. The crowd erupted in confused laughter. Lucan stared. You can't do that. Why? That is my thing. I learned it. Lucan pointed accusingly. During my chapter? Beren frowned. What? Nothing. In the observation box, Caelum nearly fell over laughing. Even Edran covered his mouth, possibly hiding a smile. Lucan looked around. His network, his conditions, most required Beren to act. Beren was not acting. One timed coin discharged harmlessly. Then another. 12 seconds. Lightning struck an empty pillar. Beren waited. Another time node expired. Lucan's eyes widened. He was draining Lucan's battlefield by doing nothing. That is extremely rude. Beren smiled. You taught me. Lucan started walking. Slowly. Beren remained seated. Lucan approached. 10 meters. 8 inch. 6 inch. 1 coin discharged. Beren did not move. 4 meters. Lucan raised his hand. Direct lightning. That still had delay. Short. But delay. Beren watched the mana gather. Lucan released. Beren waited until the final possible instant. Then. Instant trigger. Metal shield. Lightning struck. Grounded. Simultaneously. Metal wire erupted from beneath Lucan's foot. Lucan twisted. Too late. The wire pulled. A metal band struck his barrier. White light filled the arena. Lucan Marrow, 0%. Silence. Lucan landed on his back. The gauge remained. 0 inch. Beren. 63%. The judge's hand rose. Barrier depletion. Lucan stared at the sky. The grand arena ceiling shimmered above him. Thousands of faces. Thousands of voices. He had lost. Again. His lightning had not arrived first. For one dangerous second, the old joke returned. He almost said something. Something stupid. Something that would make everyone laugh before they could decide he had failed. Then he stopped. No. He was disappointed. That was allowed. He sat up. Beren stood nearby. Lucan looked at him. You waited? Beren nodded. Yes. Lucan smiled. Not hiding anything this time. That was good. Beren extended one hand. Lucan took it. Beren pulled him upright. You almost made instant trigger unusable. Almost. You changed the entire field before the fight reached it. Almost. Beren frowned. You say that a lot. I lost. Yes. Lucan looked at him. You don't have to sound pleased. I won. Fair. The judge announced. Winner, Beren Ashcroft, Class 1B. The crowd applauded. Not only for Beren. For both. Lucan turned toward Class 1F. Caelum was clapping. Celine too. Torin. Nia. Liora. All 23 classmates. Lucan looked toward Edran. The professor was seated. Naturally. Lucan pointed at him from the arena. This is your fault. The amplification crystal caught it. 12,000 people heard him. Edran replied without one. No. Lucan stared. Then started laughing. So did the arena. Class 1F's record updated. Caelum Rook, loss. Celine Maris, win. Torin Vale, win. Nia Pharaoh, win. Lucan Marrow, loss. Current record, 3-2. Lucan returned to the observation box. Caelum greeted him first. You lost. Thank you. But that was impressive. Lucan narrowed his eyes. Was that kindness? Do not get used to it. Celine immediately approached. Your conditional network had 12 overlapping activation classes. Lucan blinked. You counted? Yes. There were 11. Celine froze. Lucan smiled. I lied. There were 12. She stared at him. I hate you. Excellent. Torin handed him water. Nia said. The punch was bad. Lucan looked offended. I learned it from you. Yes. Then technically, mine was better. Lucan became silent. Caelum laughed. Liora approached last. You changed the tempo of the entire match. Lucan drank. Still lost. Yes. He looked at her. Liora's expression remained calm. But Beren had to abandon the fighting style that earned most of his 21 victories. Lucan considered. That sounds better when you say it. It is still a loss. Less good. Edran walked past them. Lucan caught his sleeve. Professor. Edran stopped. Lucan waited. Edran looked toward him. What? No rating. Good. Lucan frowned. I specifically said no rating. That was not a rating. What was it? An observation. Lucan stared. Edran continued. You stopped trying to make your gift fast. Yes. You stopped treating delay as a defect. Yes. You built decisions before you needed them. Yes. And then? Lucan sighed. I assumed waiting was always superior. Yes. Beren noticed. Yes. He learned. Yes. And beat me with my own lesson. Yes. Lucan looked deeply offended. Education is horrible. Edran nodded. I have been saying that for years. Lucan laughed. Then his expression softened. Professor. Edran waited. Lucan looked toward Beren, who was now discussing the match with several Class 1B students. Was I too slow? Edran answered immediately. No. Lucan became still. You were exactly as slow as you chose to be. Silence. For once, Lucan did not make a joke. He simply nodded. Okay. Then Edran added. You were, however, terrible at punching. Nia raised one finger. Agreed. Lucan stared at both of them. I regret emotional vulnerability. Across the arena, Beren Ashcroft stood before his Class 1B instructor. His instructor folded both arms. You sat down. Beren nodded. In an official duel. Yes. With 12,000 spectators. Yes. The instructor stared at him. Why? Beren looked toward Lucan. Because moving was what he wanted. And waiting? Was what he did not expect. His instructor nodded slowly. Instant trigger does not require you to use it instantly. Beren became quiet. No instructor had said that before. His gift had always been praised for speed. React first. Cast first. Strike first. Decide first. For years, Beren had trained to shorten the distance between thought and consequence until almost nothing remained. Lucan Mirae, the boy with the supposedly defective delay, had just taught him that sometimes the distance mattered. Beren smiled faintly. I think Class 1F is contagious. His instructor sighed. That is what I was afraid of. Far beneath Asterion. The first foundation watched the match through 24 small lights. The root moved across stone. It wrote. Fast. Then. Slow. Pause. Which better? The forgotten seventh disciple sat against the wall. Broken chain across her lap. She had watched Lucan lose. And smiled. Neither. The foundation paused. Then wrote. Beren fast. Lucan slow. Beren, 1. The woman shook her head. That does not make fast correct. The root waited. She continued. Lucan changed him. Pause. Loser teach winner? The woman laughed. Yes. The foundation remained still. That concept seemed difficult. Then loss not failure. Her smile faded slightly. No. She looked toward the 24 lights. Sometimes losing is just losing. The root hesitated. Do not turn every painful thing into a lesson, she said softly. The stone became quiet. She looked away. That sentence was not meant for the foundation. It was meant for someone 12 years away. Edran. Caelum. Herself. Some losses did teach. Some simply hurt. And sometimes pretending pain had been necessary was how people avoided admitting they had made the wrong choice. The foundation wrote. Wait. She looked back. Then. Wait equals do nothing? No. Wait equals choice? The woman's pale eyes softened. Yes. The root moved again. Teacher waited 12 years. Her expression changed. Silence. No. The foundation paused. She stood. The broken chain slid from her lap. He did not wait. Her voice became colder. He left. The 24 lights flickered. The foundation wrote nothing. For several seconds. Neither did she. Then much more quietly. But maybe. Her hand touched the dark wall. He finally came back. At noon, the ranking war paused for scheduled maintenance. Students filled the grand arena corridors. Class 1F remained together. Partly because Edran had asked them to. Mostly because none of them trusted what that meant anymore. Lucan was explaining his match for the 4th time. I would like the official record to state that Beren won through plagiarism. Caelum stared. You cannot plagiarize waiting. He copied my strategy. He sat down. Exactly. Nia nodded. Advanced technique. Lucan pointed at her. Thank you. Celine was reading updated bracket projections. Torin watched maintenance workers inspecting the iron orchard. Liora stood near the balcony. Then every communication crystal in the grand arena activated. At once. Blue light. Faculty conversations stopped. Students looked upward. The academy seal appeared. Then the seal of the National Magic Council. Edran. 10 meters away. Stopped walking. Lisette stood beside him. Her expression hardened. Too soon. Edran already knew. The notice had not been public that morning. No. It was. A council voice filled the arena. By emergency order of the National Magic Council, the following information has been released to registered magical institutions pending tomorrow's formal hearing. The students became silent. A face appeared above the arena. Older than the man Edran remembered. Sharper. Calmer. Dark hair. Black coat. Pale eyes. Caelum Draeven. Caelum frowned. Celine slowly lowered her notes. Nia looked toward Edran without knowing why. The announcement continued. Caelum Draeven, suspected leader of the organization known as Black Veil, has been identified through verified Liberation War records as a former operative active during the final campaign against the 7 Spell Thrones. Murmurs spread. Then the next line appeared. Edran, his chest tightened. Known wartime affiliation. First disciple of the Nameless Liberator. The grand arena exploded. Thousands of voices. What? The Liberator had disciples? Caelum Draeven? Black Veil? First disciple? Is that real? Lucan stopped smiling. Caelum stared at the projection. Torin became still. Celine's face changed immediately. Because Celine remembered things. Records. Old texts. Deleted names. Contradictions. Liora did not look at the projection. She looked at Edran. He had gone completely still. Too still. His usual tired posture. Gone. One hand rested inside his coat. Exactly where the council notice had been hidden. Liora's eyes narrowed. The announcement continued. A formal inquiry will determine the reliability and implications of these records. Additional historical documents concerning the Nameless Liberator and associated wartime personnel will remain restricted pending review. The projection disappeared. Noise filled the arena. Class 1F remained silent. Caelum looked toward Edran. Professor. Edran met his eyes. Caelum pointed toward the vanished image. Do you know him? Lisette looked at Edran. One question. Simple. Dangerous. Edran could lie. He had done harder things. He could say he knew the name from history. Could pretend. Could redirect. Could make a joke. Instead, he remembered 24 students. Many witnesses. No one decides alone. Nia refusing a command. Celine choosing without certainty. Torin moving the wall. Lucan deciding early. His own lesson returning toward him from every direction. Edran sighed. Yes. The class froze. Liora's eyes sharpened. Caelum asked. How? Edran looked toward the place where Caelum's face had been. For 12 years. The world had remembered a hero without a name. Now it had remembered his first student. It would ask the obvious question. Who taught Caelum Draeven? Edran answered. That. He looked at them. Is a longer lesson. Lucan slowly raised one hand. Can we postpone it? Everyone looked toward him. He pointed at himself. I have had enough education today. For half a second. Silence. Then Caelum laughed. Celine covered her face. Nia smiled. Even Liora's expression softened. Edran almost did too. Then the seventh chain burned. Hard. His hand went to his chest. Far beneath Asterion. The forgotten woman lifted her head. The first foundation wrote. First disciple. Then. Caelum. The woman stared. The root moved again. First remembered. A long pause. Then. Seventh forgotten. Her face went still. Pain crossed it. Not anger. Something older. She whispered. Yes. The foundation waited. Everyone remembers the first. Her fingers closed around the broken chain. Then she smiled. Sad. Sharp. Dangerous. But eventually, the darkness behind her shifted. They're going to remember the last. Far away. Caelum Draeven stood before another black crystal. The council announcement played across its surface. One black veil, operative waited beside him. It is public. Caelum nodded. Good. The council will ask about the Nameless Liberator tomorrow. Yes. And Professor Edran Vare? Caelum looked toward Asterion. Toward teacher. Toward the school that was slowly turning into something neither of them had planned. His expression carried no triumph. Only inevitability. The first question was who I was. The operative waited. Caelum touched the crystal. Now. The image changed. Edran Vare appeared in the grand arena, surrounded by students. Let them ask who taught me. Beneath Edran's shirt, the seventh chain cracked. Not much. Barely enough to hear. But this time, the sound did not come from beneath Asterion. It came from inside him. Crack. Edran's eyes opened. And somewhere behind the seventh lock, a forgotten voice whispered his name. Not teacher. Not liberator. Just Edran. He stopped breathing. Because this time, he almost remembered hers. Chapter 12, the question everyone asked. By 1 in the afternoon, every student in Asterion Royal Academy knew the name Caelum Draeven. By 1:15, half of them had decided they understood what it meant. By 1:30, none of them agreed. The grand arena corridors became louder than the matches themselves. Students crowded around communication crystals. Professors whispered behind closed doors. Old Liberation War records, documents most students had never cared enough to read, were suddenly being searched so heavily that Asterion's archive network temporarily stopped responding. One sentence appeared everywhere. Caelum Draeven, first disciple of the Nameless Liberator. And beneath it came the question. The same question. Again. And again. And again. Who taught him? For most of Asterion, it was a historical question. For Class 1F, it was standing 10 meters away. Edran Vare was attempting to leave the arena. He had nearly reached the western staircase when 24 students surrounded him. Edran stopped. Looked left. Caen. Right. Celine. Behind him. Torin. Nia. Lucan. In front. Princess Liora, Asterion. The remaining members of Class 1F filled every possible escape route. Edran studied the formation. Then sighed. This is excessive. Caen folded his arms. You tried to walk away. I was walking. Very quickly. I am capable of walking quickly. Lucan looked genuinely surprised. Since when? Edran ignored him. Liora remained directly in front of him. Calm. Poised. Unmoving. Professor. No. I have not asked the question yet. I know. Caen stepped closer. You said you know Caelum Draeven? Yes. How? Edran looked toward the arena ceiling, perhaps hoping structural collapse would save him. Torin followed his gaze. The ceiling is stable. Traitor. Torin blinked. Lucan covered his mouth. Nia almost smiled. Caen did not. How do you know him? Edran lowered his gaze. 24 students waited. For once, no one looked amused. The council announcement had changed something. Until now, their strange professor had been a collection of impossible details. A man with no proper teaching record. Asterion's barrier recognized him. Dean Arklane trusted him. Professor Dalmir could not understand his casting. Ancient systems beneath the academy reacted to him. He knew techniques that had disappeared from the National Archives. And now, he knew the leader of Black Veil. A man officially identified as the first disciple of the greatest sorcerer in modern history. Celine spoke quietly. You do not have to tell us everything. Caen looked at her. She continued. But you should tell us something. That surprised Edran more than Caen's demand. Selene Maris did not ask questions carelessly anymore. She had learned the danger of requiring perfect answers before making decisions, which meant if she was asking now, she had already decided the absence of information mattered. Edran looked at her, then at the others. Liora said, "You told us yesterday that gifts should expand our choices rather than replace them." Edran narrowed his eyes. "I regret teaching all of you." Lucan nodded sympathetically. "Education has consequences." Liora continued, "You are asking us to continue the ranking war, while something connected to Black Veil, the Liberation War, and possibly this academy is happening around us." Her eyes sharpened. "We cannot make informed choices if you refuse to give us information." Silence. Edran stared at her. Then, very slightly, smiled. Not because she was wrong. Because she was becoming dangerous. Exactly as a student should. "All right." Caen straightened. Edran glanced toward the nearby corridors. Students from other classes were passing. Faculty members too. Too many years. Not here. Lucan immediately pointed toward an empty storage room. "I saw a room." Edran looked at him. "You were searching for escape routes?" "I study under you." "Fair." The storage room had been designed for tournament equipment. 24 students, 1 professor, and several crates of barrier crystals made it significantly less comfortable. Lucan sat on a crate. Caen remained standing. Selene leaned against the wall. Torrent stayed near the door. Nia sat quietly beside Liora. Edran stood in the center. Everyone waited. He hated this. Not because he was frightened of questions. Questions were easy. Answers were the problem. 12 years ago, people had asked him different questions. Can you destroy the thrones? Can you free the capital? Can you break the contracts? Can you save us? He had answered yes too many times. And afterward, he had disappeared before anyone could ask the harder question. What now? Caelum had never forgiven him for that. Edran looked around the room. What the council announced is true. The students became still. Caelum Draeven fought during the Liberation War. Caen asked, "As the Liberator's disciple?" "Yes." "First disciple?" "Yes." Selene asked, "How many disciples were there?" Edran paused. Liora noticed. "Professor?" 7. The room went silent. Lucan counted on his fingers. 7 spell thrones. No one laughed. Edran's eyes flicked toward him. Lucan's hand slowly lowered. Selene's expression changed. 7 disciples. Yes. And 7 thrones. Yes. That cannot be coincidence. No. Caen stepped forward. What were they? People. Caen's eyebrow twitched. You know what I mean. Edran looked tired again. Students? That answer was somehow worse. Nia spoke quietly. Like us. Edran looked at her. For a moment, the storage room disappeared. Another room. 12 years ago. 7-inch younger faces. Too confident. Too angry. Too willing to follow him anywhere. Caelum at the front. Always first. Always asking why. Edran answered softly. Not exactly. Nia did not look convinced. Neither did Liora. Caen asked. How did you know Caelum? There it was. The question inside the question. Edran could give them the truth. 3 words. I taught him. Then everything would change. Caen would remember Flame Lance. Selene would remember free casting. Torrent would remember the Foundation recognizing his presence. Nia would remember commands breaking around him. Lucan would probably make a terrible joke and then spend 6 hours reconstructing every conversation they had ever had. And Liora. Liora might understand immediately. Edran looked toward the princess. She was already too close. He chose carefully. I knew him during the war. Caen frowned. That is not an answer. It is an answer. It is barely an answer. It contains subject, verb, and information. Lucan raised a finger. Technically. Caen glared at him. Lucan lowered it. Selene continued instead. What was your role? Edran said nothing. That was enough. Liora's eyes narrowed. You were involved? Yes. In the Liberation War? Yes. Caen stared. You were 24. Yes. You fought? Occasionally. Lucan tilted his head. Occasionally? Edran shrugged. There was a war. That usually requires fighting. I tried to avoid overtime. Caen dragged both hands over his face. Can you answer one thing seriously? I am. That is the problem. Despite himself, Torin smiled. The tension loosened. Only slightly. Liora did not. Did Caelum Draeven become Black Veil's leader because of something that happened during the war? Edran's expression changed. There. A better question. Not who. Why. Yes. Celine inhaled. So Black Veil is connected to the liberation? Yes. Connected how? Edran considered. Then answered. The 7 thrones were destroyed as rulers. Everyone listened. But the systems they built did not disappear. Caen frowned. Spell systems? Some. Political systems? Yes. Contracts? Yes. Bloodline privileges? Yes. Liora's face became colder. Edran continued. Humanity was freed from the thrones. That did not mean humanity suddenly became good at being free. No one spoke. That is what Caelum believes the Liberator failed to understand. Nia asked. Do you agree? Edran looked at her. Another dangerous student. Partly. That answer surprised everyone. Caen stared. You agree with the leader of Black Veil? I agree that the liberation did not solve everything. But Black Veil is attacking the Academy. Yes. They are trying to control the Foundation. Yes. So how can you agree with him? Because someone can correctly identify a problem and still choose a terrible solution. Silence. Liora lowered her eyes slightly. That sentence, she understood too well. Edran continued. Caelum believes freedom without enforced order eventually recreates oppression. Celine asked. And what does he want? The old systems. Caen's face hardened. The thrones? Something close to them. Torin asked. To revive them? Edran hesitated. Control them. That was worse. Several students visibly understood it. Liora whispered. He wants to put himself above the system. Edran looked toward her. Yes. She frowned. Then he becomes another throne. Edran said nothing. But something in his expression told her she had touched the center of it. Lucan leaned back against the crate. All right. Everyone looked at him. He exhaled. So, just to confirm. One finger. Black Veil's leader was trained by the Nameless Liberator. Second finger. He thinks the liberation failed. Third. He wants to control ancient magical systems built by immortal tyrants. Fourth. Those systems are apparently underneath our school. Fifth. And our professor knows him personally. He stared at his hand. I have run out of fingers before reaching the normal part. Nia quietly lifted one finger for him. Lucan looked touched. Thank you. Caen ignored them. If you know Caelum, why did you not tell the council? Edran's eyes hardened. I did. The room froze. Celine spoke first. When? Before the announcement. Liora immediately understood. The notice inside your coat. Edran looked at her. She had seen it. Of course she had. Yes. Caen stared between them. What notice? Liora answered. Dean Arklane received council information before the public announcement. Caen looked toward Edran. And they already knew you were connected? Some of them. How much do they know? Not enough. That is becoming a common problem. Edran almost agreed. Instead he walked toward the door. We're done. Caen blocked him. No. Edran stopped. Caen stood directly in front of him. 16 years old. Red hair. Stubborn eyes. Once upon a time. Caelum had stood like that. The resemblance was not physical. That made it worse. Caen said. There is one more question. Edran waited. Caen looked directly at him. Was Caelum Draeven your enemy? Silence. The room became very still. Edran could have answered yes. It would have been easy. True enough. Caelum had attacked the Academy. Black Veil had threatened his students. They stood on opposite sides. But the question had not been, is he your enemy now? It had been, was he? Edran answered, no. Caen's expression shifted. Edran opened the door. He was someone I failed. Then he left. No one followed immediately. Because for once, the answer had created more silence than the question. Dean Lisette Arklane was waiting outside. Naturally. Edran closed the storage room door behind him. Lisette looked toward it. You told them. Some. How much? Enough. That is not a measurable quantity. It is emotionally measurable. I regret recruiting you. You say that often. Not often enough. They started walking. Outside the western corridor windows, Asterion's towers rose beneath a bright afternoon sky. Below, The ranking war continued. Magic flashed from smaller practice arenas. Students cheered. For most of them, the tournament still mattered. That was important. The world had a terrible habit of believing everything should stop when history became dramatic. It did not. People still had matches, meals, homework, fear, promises, and apparently, faculty meetings. Lisette handed Edran a sealed envelope. He stared at it. No, you have not opened it. It is an envelope. Impressive observation. Envelopes contain obligations. This one contains a council summons. Exactly. Edran tried to return it. Lisette refused. Tomorrow morning. I have class. You are currently supervising ranking war preliminaries. Exactly. The council knows. Then they understand I am busy. They moved the inquiry to Asterion. Edran stopped walking. Lisette continued 2 steps before realizing. Then turned. They are coming here? Yes. How many? 3 senior investigators. No. That is not a meaningful response. It expresses emotion. And little else. Edran stared at the envelope. Who? Magister Haven Rusk. Edran's expression darkened. Lisette noticed. You know him. I know his type. Council loyalist. Council survivor. There is a distinction? Yes. Lisette waited. Edran sighed. Loyal people believe institutions are right. And survivors? Believe institutions must continue existing whether they are right or not. Lisette considered. That may be worse. It usually is. The other 2 are Archivist Melis Wren and Commander Orvin Hale. Edran looked toward her. Orvin? Yes. He is still alive? He is 53. He looked 60 during the war. Lisette almost smiled. Stress. Leadership. Same thing. They continued walking. Lisette lowered her voice. They have recovered additional records. Edran became serious. What kind? Personnel lists. From where? Old Western Command archives. Those should have been destroyed. His silence told Lisette that. They found references to Caelum. Edran nodded. And? They found references to 6 additional unidentified disciples. Edran stopped again. Lisette's voice softened. No names. Good. Terrible. Both. They also found something else. Edran waited. A recurring designation. Lisette handed him a small copied sheet. One phrase had been reproduced from a damaged war ledger. Field Authority EV. Edran stared. Lisette watched him. EV. He said nothing. Several campaign orders signed that way were issued directly before Major Throne collapses. Still nothing. And the council would like to know who EV was. Edran folded the paper. Slowly. The question everyone asked. Lisette nodded. Who taught Caelum Draeven? Edran looked toward the arena. No. Lisette frowned. That is not the question. She waited. Edran's eyes moved toward the thousands of students below. The question they are really asking. He placed the paper inside his coat. Is who the Liberator was. The next individual match began at 2:30. Class 1F entered the observation box. Lucan had recovered enough to complain normally. Caen still looked distracted. Celine had taken 17 pages of notes during the discussion with Edran. Nia had written only 3 words. Someone I failed. Torin remained quiet. And Liora. Liora had not spoken since leaving the storage room. The ranking screen changed. Class 1F, current record, 3-2. Then, next match. Princess Liora Asterion, Class 1F, crossed the arena. Another name appeared. Mirae Lune, Class 1A. Caen looked toward Liora. Well? Lucan winced. Rank 1 again. Mirae Lune. Ice Affinity. Gift. Crystal Mirror. One of Class 1 as Best Defensive Control Specialists. A student known for taking simple spells and multiplying their effective angles through reflective ice surfaces. Unlike Aurelian Crest. Mirae was not flashy. She was worse. Patient. Precise. Difficult to bait. Liora stood. Celine looked toward her. Her crystal mirror can redirect light. Yes. She will counter your affinity directly. Yes. You sound calm. I am not. That caused everyone to look at her. Liora Asterion rarely admitted anything that directly. Caen frowned. Then don't act calm. Liora looked at him. He shrugged. It wastes energy. Edran entered the observation box. 1 cup of tea. Of course. Liora walked toward him. Professor. No. I have not asked anything. That has stopped none of you today. She ignored it. Mirae can redirect light orb. Yes. She can refract beam spells. Yes. She can create false targets. Yes. My registered gift offers almost no advantage against her. Yes. Liora waited. Edran drank tea. Her eyebrow moved. That is all? What would you like? A strategy. Use your magic. That is not a strategy. It is generally required. Caelum muttered. He gets worse when pressured. Edran looked at Liora. Really looked. Then his expression changed. You know what you must not use. The observation box became quieter. Only a few students understood. Celine did not. Caelum did not. Lucan did not. Torin's eyes shifted. Nia noticed Liora's hand. Liora herself became completely still. Edran was talking about the crown gate. Her true gift. The power almost no one knew existed. The thing beneath Asterion responded to it. The thing the royal family had hidden behind a false public record. She lowered her voice. If I need it? No. What if I lose without it? Then lose. Caelum immediately turned. What? Edran did not look away from Liora. You know what happens if you expose it here. Liora's jaw tightened. 12,000 spectators. Council observers. Faculty. Recording crystals. Black veil possibly watching. If the crown gate appeared, the match would no longer matter. Everyone would ask another question. What is the princess hiding? Liora whispered. So victory is not the objective. Edran answered. Victory is an objective. She understood. Not all objectives were equal. Her eyes lowered. For her entire life she had been trained to represent the crown. Win gracefully. Lose gracefully. Speak correctly. Stand correctly. Use the correct spell. Reveal the correct amount. Protect what must remain protected. But this was different. Edran was not telling her to obey royal protocol. He was forcing her to choose. Liora looked up. If there is an opening where crown gate guarantees victory. Your decision. She frowned. You just told me not to use it. I told you what I think. Then what is the point of saying it is my decision? Edran's eyes sharpened. Because when you enter that arena, I am not the one who pays for your choice. Silence. That landed. Liora stared at him. Then nodded. Once. She turned toward the arena entrance. Edran spoke behind her. Princess. She stopped. You rarely called her that. Do not confuse refusing to open a door with being afraid to walk through one. Liora looked back. For the first time. She understood exactly what lesson he was giving her. She entered the arena. Mirae Lune waited at the center. Pale blue hair fell to her shoulders. Her white and navy class 1A uniform was immaculate. 3 small crystal shards floated behind her. Not weapons. Seeds. Liora approached. Mirae bowed. Princess. Student is sufficient. Mirae considered. Then. Liora. Thank you. They faced one another. The terrain crystal rotated. The arena transformed. Stone became pale reflective marble. 8 shallow pools appeared. Tall crystalline walls rose at irregular angles. The display announced. Terrain, mirror court. Lucan stared. They gave crystal mirror an arena full of mirrors? Celine shook her head. The terrain selection is randomized. Lucan pointed. Randomness has betrayed us. Caelum watched Liora. This is bad. Edran said nothing. The judge raised one hand. Begin. Mirae moved first. Not with an attack. A tiny ice crystal appeared. Then another. Then 12. Liora raised one hand. Light orb. Simple. Bright. Mirae's crystals rotated. The orb's light struck one. Split. Reflected. The arena filled with Liora's own light from 5 directions. Liora shielded her eyes. Mirae attacked. A narrow ice lance crossed the field. Liora moved. Too late. Barrier flash. Liora, 94%. Caelum frowned. She used her own light against her. Celine leaned forward. Exactly. Liora fired a second orb. Smaller. Mirae created a mirror. Liora expected reflection. Instead, Mirae absorbed the light into translucent ice. The entire crystal glowed. Then released it behind Liora. Barrier flash. Liora, 87%. Mirae did not smile. Did not taunt. Did not waste movement. She was Class 1A. Rank 1. She had studied the matchup. Liora lowered her hand. Light was useless if every straight path belonged to Mirae. Then, Edran's lessons. Fire never asked to become a ball. Water did not need to remain still. Earth did not need to block. Silence did not need to fill a room. Lightning did not need to arrive immediately. Light did not need to travel toward the opponent. Liora looked down. A small light orb formed near the floor. Mirae frowned. Liora sent it sideways. Not at Mirae. At the marble. Light struck the ground. Reflected. Then hit one of the shallow pools. Scattered. A dozen weak reflections spread. Mirae raised crystals. Too many angles. Not enough power to hurt. But enough to obscure. Liora moved inside the glare. Mirae's eyes narrowed. Good. Liora created 3 more weak lights. Not attacks. Information. Every reflection showed her the orientation of Mirae's crystal surfaces. She could see where the mirrors were facing, where they would redirect, where the blind spaces existed. Celine stood. She is mapping the field. Edran sipped his tea. Caen smiled. There she is. Mirae understood 1 second later. She shattered her own mirrors. Liora's map vanished. Immediately, new crystals formed. Different angles. Liora's eyes sharpened. Mirae had adapted. Good. Liora almost smiled. She fired light orb. Not at Mirae. At one crystal. Mirae rotated it. The light redirected. Exactly where Liora wanted. It struck a second crystal. Then a third. Then a pool. Then Mirae. Barrier flash. Mirae, 91%. The arena reacted. Mirae stared at her own crystals. Liora lowered her hand. Thank you. For the first time. Mirae smiled. That was rude. You reflected it. You aimed using my gift. Yes. Mirae raised both hands. 30 crystals formed. Lucan sat forward. Oh. Caen winced. That looks expensive. Celine whispered. It is. Mirae was done experimenting. Crystal mirror expanded. The entire mirror court became a refractive cage. Liora saw herself. Once. 5 times. 20-inch. Every direction. Mirae disappeared among reflections. Ice bolts came. Left. Right. Behind. Liora blocked one. Dodged another. Third struck. Liora, 78%. Fourth. 71%. She created light. Mirae multiplied it. Too bright. Liora dismissed it. Darkness would have helped. But she did not have shadow affinity. She moved toward a crystal wall. Ice appeared beneath her feet. She slipped. Barrier flash. 63%. Caen gripped the railing. Come on. Edran remained silent. Liora stood. Breathing harder. Mirae's voice came from everywhere. You are holding something back. Liora froze. Observation box. Silent. Mirae continued. You have been holding it back since the match started. Liora looked around. Reflections. Dozens of mirrors. Everyone does. No. A crystal turned. I watched your previous lessons. Another. Your mana changes before certain reactions. Another. When Professor Vare speaks to you. Liora's expression hardened. Mirae had noticed. Of course she had. Class 1A was supposed to be good. Mirae appeared 10 meters away. Your registered gift is enhanced illumination. Liora said nothing. Yet sometimes your mana behaves like it is waiting for permission. Edran's cup stopped halfway to his mouth. Torin felt something beneath the floor. A pulse. Very faint. Liora's fingers tingled. No. Not now. Mirae created another crystal. What is your real gift? There it was. The second question of the day. The question everyone always asked when they sensed a locked door. What is behind it? Liora felt the crown gate. Not visible. Not yet. A tiny threshold inside her mana. Waiting. One thought. That was all. She could open. Not fully. A fraction. Enough to tell every hostile spell. You may not pass. Mirae's entire crystal mirror formation would become useless. Liora knew it. Edran knew it. The first foundation beneath the academy knew it. The old system stirred. Open. Liora heard nothing. But something in her bones understood the invitation. Mirae attacked. Ice from 6 angles. Liora lifted her hand. For one heartbeat. A pale rectangular outline appeared around her fingers. Edran stood. Torin gasped. Nia turned. Selene saw light distort. Mirae's eyes widened. The crown gate was there. One command. Deny. Liora could win. She could stop everything. She could prove she was not merely the princess with pretty light magic. She could. Edran's voice returned. When you enter that arena, I am not the one who pays for your choice. Liora closed her hand. The doorway vanished. I struck. 1 inch. 2 inch. 3 inch. Her barrier exploded with light. Liora, 34%. The crowd roared. Mirae stared. She had seen it. Not clearly, but enough to know something had happened. Liora staggered. Edran sat down again. Caelum turned on him. She had something. Yes. You told her not to use it. Yes. She is losing. Yes. Professor. Selene touched Caelum's arm. He stopped. Selene was watching Liora. Not Edran. She chose. Caelum looked back toward the arena. Liora stood. 34%. Mirae. 91. She was losing badly. And yet, Liora's expression was calmer. Decision made. No more hesitation. If Crown Gate was unavailable, then it was unavailable. Not a temptation. Not an emergency solution. Gone. Which meant she could finally fight with what remained. Light. Movement. Observation. Choice. Liora raised both hands. 6 tiny lights appeared. Mirae prepared mirrors. Liora smiled. Then sent every light upward. Mirae looked up. The light struck the ceiling barrier. Scattered. Not toward Mirae. Across the entire arena. Thousands of weak rays. Every crystal cast a shadow. Liora saw them. The real Mirae had one thing her reflections did not. A physical shadow aligned with the arena lights. Liora turned. Fired. Mirae barely raised a shield. Barrier flash. Mirae, 72%. Another beam. 64%. Mirae shattered the crystals. Too late. Liora already knew her position. She rushed forward. Not elegant. Not royal. Caelum shouted. Yes. Mirae produced an ice wall. Liora slid beneath the forming edge. Light flashed from her palm at point-blank range. Barrier. Mirae, 46%. The crowd stood. Liora moved again. Mirae responded. Ice burst from the floor. Liora jumped. Light orb beneath her feet. Not an attack. Burst. The recoil shifted her sideways. Lucan shouted. That should not work. Selene answered. It barely does. Liora landed badly. Rolled. Mirae fired. Liora reflected her light orb off a pool. The light blinded Mirae for half a second. Enough. Liora attacked. Mirae 28%. Caelum was shouting now. Even students from other classes were standing. Liora. 34. Mirae. 28. The match had changed. Mirae wiped melting frost from her cheek. Then smiled. Not politely. Actually smiled. Good. Liora breathed heavily. Likewise. Mirae brought both hands together. Every remaining piece of ice in the mirror court rose. Hundreds. Selene's expression changed. Composite formation. Edran nodded. Mirae had saved it. Her strongest technique. Palace of Reflections. The crystals became one enormous structure. Walls. Angles. Layers. A single spell using the entire battlefield as one mirror. Liora felt Crown Gate again. So easy. One threshold. One denial. One victory. She closed her hand. No. Mirae released. Light and ice became impossible to distinguish. Liora ran. 1 reflection. 2 inch. 3 inch. She sent light orbs everywhere. Searching for the true path. Too late. An ice shard struck. Liora, 22%. Another. 15%. She found Mirae. Fired. Mirae's barrier dropped. 17%. Both moved. Liora gathered everything remaining. 1 light orb. Simple. First, circle. The spell every beginner learned. Mirae created 1 final mirror. Liora threw. Mirae reflected. Liora changed the orb's brightness mid-flight. The mirror refracted differently. The beam bent. Mirae's eyes widened. It struck. At the same instant, her reflected ice lance crossed the arena. 2 barriers shattered. White. Silence. The gauges flickered. Liora Asterion, 0%. Mirae Lune, 4%. The arena exploded. Liora dropped to one knee. Mirae remained standing. Barely. The judge raised his hand. Barrier depletion. Liora closed her eyes. Lost. By 4%. A victory had been available. She had chosen not to take it. For 1 second. That hurt. Good. She allowed it to. Then she stood. Mirae walked toward her. Held out one hand. Liora accepted. Mirae leaned closer. Quiet enough that the amplification crystals would not catch it. That thing you almost used? Liora met her eyes. Mirae smiled faintly. I will not ask again. Liora stared. Why? Because you chose to lose rather than show it. Mirae glanced at the arena around them. 12,000 people were watching. Her voice lowered. If you think it is that dangerous. She released Liora's hand. Then I do not need to know. For the first time that day, someone had seen a locked door, and chosen not to ask what was behind it. Liora bowed. Not as a princess. As a student. Thank you. The judge announced. Winner, Mirae Lune Class 1A. The arena applauded both. The ranking board updated. Class 1F, 3 wins/3 losses. Balanced. Exactly. Caelum stared at the score. 3-3. Lucan nodded. We are aggressively average. Celine looked toward Liora returning through the gate. No. Everyone turned. She smiled slightly. We are ranked 24. She looked at the board. And Class 1A needed 4%. Caelum's grin returned. Better. Liora entered the observation room. Caelum approached first. You could have one. Yes. You had something. Yes. You wanted to ask. Everyone could see it. What? How? What? Then Caelum stopped. He remembered the storage room. Edran. Caelum. Questions. Secrets. Choices. Caelum exhaled. Good match. Liora blinked. That was all. Celine hugged her. Briefly. Unexpectedly. Liora stiffened. Then slowly relaxed. Torrin said. You changed your footing after the second crystal formation. Liora nodded. It was terrible. Yes. She looked at him. Torrin added. But it worked. Nia approached. You chose. Liora understood. Yes. Lucan raised both thumbs. I personally would have used the mysterious forbidden power. Everyone stared. What? He looked around. I am honest. Edran stood at the back. Liora approached him last. He said nothing. Neither did she. For several seconds. Teacher and princess stared at one another. Then Liora asked. Was losing correct? Edran answered. No. She frowned. He continued. Winning would not necessarily have been correct either. That is unhelpful. Yes. She waited. Edran looked toward the arena. You protected something you decided mattered more than the match. Liora nodded. That was your choice. Yes. You paid for it. Her eyes moved toward the score. Yes. Then remember the cost. Liora looked back at him. Why? Because if you pretend the cost does not matter, next time you are not choosing. His voice became quieter. You are just obeying a principle. Liora became still. Another lesson. Not. Secrets are always more important than victory. Not. Never use Crown Gate. Not even. You made the right decision. Only. Know what you chose. Know what it cost. Choose again next time. Liora whispered. I understand. Edran yawned. Good. Then he started walking away. Liora called. Professor. He stopped. She hesitated. Then asked. Caelum Draeven. Edran's shoulders tightened. Did he believe he was choosing something worth the cost? Silence. Edran did not turn. Yes. Liora looked toward him. And did he understand the cost? Edran's expression became tired. Not lazy. Tired. No. Then he left. Far beneath Asterion. The first foundation had watched everything. 24 lights hovered in the dark. The root moved. It wrote. Liora could open. The forgotten seventh disciple watched. Yes. Liora did not. Yes. Liora lost. Yes. Pause. What? The woman smiled faintly. Because some doors should remain closed. The foundation thought. Then wrote. Closed equals safe. No. The root stopped. Sometimes closed means afraid. New words. Liora afraid? Yes. The foundation seemed confused. Then open. No. The woman laughed softly. The sound echoed through the forgotten chamber. You really are becoming like him. The roots trembled. Edran? Yes. Pause. Then. Edran opens doors. The woman's smile disappeared. No. The foundation waited. She looked toward the ancient seventh lock. Edran breaks them. Silence. Her fingers touched the broken chain at her wrist. He always believed chains were the problem. The foundation wrote, chains bad. No. Another pause. She sighed. Sometimes chains hold monsters. The root moved. Sometimes chains hold people. The woman froze. The foundation continued. How no difference? For several seconds. She could not answer. Then she whispered. You ask. The root waited. She looked upward. Toward the academy. Toward Edran. Toward the professor who had finally begun asking his students what they wanted instead of deciding for them. You asked the person inside. The foundation turned. Slowly. Toward the seventh lock. The woman's face changed. The root wrote. Do you want to open? Silence. For 12 years. No one had asked her. Not Caelum. Not the council. Not the thrones. Not even Edran. Her eyes closed. The question hurt more than any chain. Finally. She answered. I don't know. The foundation remained still. Then. That is answer. The woman opened her eyes. A tear moved down one cheek. She laughed once. Quietly. Maybe you really are learning. Behind her. The seventh lock gave a tiny sound. Not breaking. Listening. That evening. The National Magic Council arrived early. 3 black carriages crossed Asterion's outer bridge. Council sigils glowed along their doors. Students gathered at windows. Faculty members moved toward the administration wing. Dean Laziest stood at the academy entrance. Beside her, Professor Dalmir, Professor Seraphine Voss, and reluctantly, Edran. He looked toward the approaching carriages. I could still leave. Laziest did not look at him. No. There are several windows. I reinforced them. Edran turned. You planned for me specifically. Yes. Cruel. Experienced. The first carriage stopped. An elderly man stepped down. Magister Haven Rusk. Silver hair. Thin face. Council. Black robes. Eyes that measured institutions before people. Second. Archivist Melis Wren. Middle-aged woman. Short brown hair. 3 sealed record cases floating beside her. Third. Commander Orvin Hale. Broad. Scarred. Gray uniform. He stepped onto Asterion stone. Looked at Laziest. Then Dalmir. Then Seraphine. Finally. Edran. Orvin stopped. Completely. Edran stared back. No one spoke. Laziest noticed immediately. Rusk did too. Orvin's face slowly lost color. Edran sighed. Hello, Orvin. Professor Dalmir turned. Seraphine's eyes narrowed. Archivist Wren looked between them. Orvin Hale. Commander of one of the Council's oldest military divisions. The man who had fought in the final liberation campaign. Did something no one expected. He bowed. Deeply. To Edran Vare. The academy entrance became silent. Laziest closed her eyes. Edran stared at the commander. You had one job. Orvin straightened. His expression carried shock. And something close to fear. I thought you were dead. Edran replied. I was unemployed. That is not the same thing. It felt similar. No one laughed. Magister Rusk stepped forward. His eyes moved from Orvin to Edran, then to the copied historical document in his hand. Field Authority EV. Rusk looked at Edran. Professor Vare. Edran already hated the next sentence. Rusk asked, who exactly are you? And far beneath Asterion. The first foundation wrote the same question. Who is Edran? The forgotten seventh disciple stared at the words, then slowly smiled. For the first time in 12 years. She knew exactly how to answer. He is the man. The seventh chain around Edran's heart tightened. Who taught us to break every cage. A crack appeared across the ancient lock. Except the ones he built himself. Thank you for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe.